we got another Talking Oscars, and this time I'm joined by a special guest. This is the first time I've invited somebody onto Talking Oscars to talk Oscars with me. And I'm joined by a friend of mine, Alex Howard from the Dark Room podcast. Why don't you say
Hey
what's up?
guys,
Hey.
what's going on? I'm excited.
Well,
It's Oscar season finally.
I'm excited too. I have somebody here talking Oscars with me that actually went to a film festival. That's a huge get. I feel like so many people with YouTube channels and we're trying to read tea leaves, but you actually went somewhere and actually
Yeah,
maybe some people whispered in your ear, and maybe you've got some interesting knowledge that I don't have. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We're
yeah. I mean,
gonna yeah.
I did see one there that I think has the potential, but I feel like this year's TIFF wasn't as Oscar-y as normal. Maybe because the actors weren't there. I don't know, but I do have some insight. So yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay. Yeah, it's always interesting how the film festivals they feel like a concentrated explosion of excitement, and then once they're released upon the general public and the rest of the critics, that's when you see where a film really lands.
Yeah, yeah,
And
no, for sure.
yeah,
But I feel
a
like
film can
Toronto,
have intense
especially.
buzz and then fade out. What's up?
Yeah, I feel like Toronto, especially like the audience award at Toronto has so much weight to it. So I feel
Mhm.
like Toronto's really the first festival to kick off award season, and see what's going to happen. So yeah, we'll get to our prediction.
All right, we're gonna start at number one and work our way through 1 through 10, and then we each have five honorable mentions of films we think could possibly break into this race. Uh, so I'm gonna ask Alex first. What you got up at the top? What's your number one?
So number one for me, even though it didn't hit for me the first time, I do think it's so. I mean, it's a great film. Objectively, I think Oppenheimer for sure is getting in there for Best Picture nomination.
Cool. Yeah, for my number one, I went with Killers of the Flower Moon, and I've been kind of going with Killers ever since it debuted at Cannes. Uh, and I just I don't know. I just have a feeling it's a 3.5 hour epic based on a true story. It's got a great cast. It's directed by Scorsese. Not many more times that we're going to be able to see him
Yeah.
directing an epic like that. And I feel like the best picture winners that we've had are all kind of a little different, and it's been a while since we've had kind of an epic. We've had some odd films that have won. We had smaller films like Nomadland. It's been a hot minute since we've had a film with a budget that's won an Oscar, and we've got some contenders this year. And I kind of wonder if one of the films that actually had a budget this year might actually win. So I'm going with Killers as my top
Yeah, it's
spot.
interesting. I, Killers is my number two, but it's interesting that you bring that up because you could almost say a big budget film is due to win an Oscar, but you could also say like it's trending that the smaller films are more likely to win an Oscar, the smaller, more heartfelt films. So it could that fact that you said could go either way. You know what I mean? I did get a chance to see Killers of the Flower Moon on Thursday. I thought it was really, really good. I mean, it's definitely up there. I mean, I haven't seen too many of the older Scorsese movies, but I
Yeah.
mean, I wasn't a huge fan of Irishman. I did really like Killers. I am hearing like a little bit of not backlash, but like I don't think the audience is loving it as much as the critics are loving it because I do see the perspective of like it didn't really show the perspective of the Osage Nation as much as you want it to. But it is still a great movie and great performances, and it does feel like an epic masterpiece. So I don't see any way that it doesn't get into Best Picture.
I don't think you'd be a Best Picture winner though if you weren't at least a little divisive.
That's
I
true.
feel like
Yeah.
there are always people, like every film that I can think of recently that's won Best Picture. Coda probably to the less extent.
I was
It's
gonna
not that
say
people
not
didn't
Coda,
like
but
Coda,
yeah.
but there are
I
people
don't
who
think
liked
Coda
other
had
films
any.
more. I feel
Yeah.
like the year of Coda, it wasn't that people didn't like the film. It was that people had another favorite. But I feel like the past couple winners, especially with films like Parasite,
Green Book.
Nomadland, Green Book is a great example. Everything Everywhere All at Once. I feel like there are people that don't like those films. Shaking
Hmm.
Water. So I feel like there almost has to be a contention of people who are like, nah, that's not gonna happen. So
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's a good sign for a film to have a tiny little percentage of naysayers. So
yeah.
if anything, it kind of helps killers. But uh, your number one is my number two. So
Okay.
Oppenheimer is my number two. Because of the same reason, I'm putting the two big budget epics up at the top. I just kind of worry with Oppenheimer about putting it at number one that the Oscars haven't really been quick to show Nolan love. And I don't know. I feel like it took Scorsese till The Departed to get love from the Oscars. I know it's a weird thing to say that because he doesn't always get the same kind of, but his films would get like acting nominations and stuff. Nolan he only has one acting nomination ever for Heath Ledger for The Dark Knight. It was also a win. He's only ever
Hmm.
been nominated for director once, and he only has two Best Picture nominees to his name. But yet he's considered to be like one of the most prolific directors. And I don't know. Maybe Oppenheimer is his time, or maybe it's just going to be par for the course with
Which, what,
Oscars.
once again,
So
you could say the same thing about that. Like, you could say he's due, or you could say it's just the Academy isn't a huge Nolan person. So yeah, it could go either way with that.
But I think certainly since Barbenheimer is happening and is still out there, and this is sort of like Universal, the major studio. I know they also own Focus, but this is Universal, and I don't think Universal has anything else to campaign under their major label brand. So I don't know what else they would be putting there. I don't know what else
They
they're
have
going to put
something
their
under
weight
Focus.
behind. So I mean, yeah, they have Focus, but those
Yeah,
are
yeah,
kind of like two different studios. So it's almost like they can get one in under each uh, if they're sly. I feel like
yeah.
they can slip them in. So yeah, what you got at number three?
So number three for me is Barbie. I just think it's so big and feminist and just it's such a big phenomenon this year. I don't see it, not getting acknowledged at the Oscars.
Okay. Yeah, I my only concern with Barbie is that it feels like the now that we go to 10, we always are able to acknowledge the popular film of the year, which is something that when we went to 10 was the big concern because we went to 10 the year after films like Dark Knight and Wally both missed out on Best Picture nominations despite massive box office success and critical acclaim. So we've had films like Barbie that have gotten like last year Top Gun Maverick obviously didn't necessarily on paper look like an Oscar film, but made it. So
I do
I think
think
that's kind of where Barbie is. I don't. Some people I've heard some people in some conversations who are like, I think it's going to get 12 nominations. And I'm like, I think that's a lot. That's expecting a lot for Barbie. I think it'll be there, but I don't know that it's like the juggernaut. It was a box office juggernaut, but Top Gun Maverick ended up missing director and actor. It got a DGA nomination, didn't end up getting Joseph Kosinski. Tom Cruise couldn't get into the race. It was considered the front runner for best cinematography and then couldn't even get a nomination. So I don't know. I just don't
the
know. I don't know what
problem
Barbie's gonna end up with. So
the problem is I don't think Kaczynski had any nominations before. Like the Academy likes Greta Gerwig and they like Margot Robbie. Like they have a history of getting nominated. So I do think Barbie is going to get bigger acclaim in
sure.
the Academy than Top Gun Maverick did.
Yeah. Yeah. But my number three is different than yours. It's I'm gonna go with Poor Things.
Okay.
I think Yorgos Lanthimos' film has the kind of love behind it that it needs to really excel in this race. There are some people who really adore Poor Things, and it did win the prize at Venice, which is what kept it from being able to win, from Emma Stone being able to win, which is why people are even talking about Kaylee Spaney. because the theory behind that is that if Poor Things hadn't won, because if you win the Grand Prix at Venice, you're not eligible to win the acting prizes. So if Emma Stone had been eligible, then Kaylee may not have won for Priscilla. So Emma Stone is getting nothing but lots of love for this. Yorgos, his last film, was really appreciated at the Oscars.
The Favorite.
Yeah, The Favorite was embraced by the Oscars, and this is getting a huge push from Searchlight. They moved it back. It was supposed to open in September. They moved it to a more Oscar-friendly release. So I think everything's looking good for Poor Things. So I've got a number 3. It's one of the ones I think could actually end up taking the trophy at the end of the day. So
yeah,
what are your thoughts?
I have Poor Things a little bit later down my list, but yeah, I think my top 5 are shoo-ins for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
My number 4 is The Holdovers. I think that's one I saw at TIFF. It was really, really good. It is not my cup of tea in genre-wise, but I do appreciate the movie, and I think it is objectively a great movie, and I think you and Lee will especially really like it. I think it's kind of a throwback to like a 70s kind of it's not about a family, but almost like a contained drama, like family drama. And I think we don't have many of those in movies today. So I really think the Academy is going to love it. I think it comes out next weekend. I think audiences are going to love it, and I think it's going to get in there for Best Picture. I think it's definitely Alexander Payne's best movie since The Descendants, which is I don't think he's had since The Descendants, it's my favorite Alexander Payne movie.
I think a lot of people are being bold in saying it's his best since Sideways. So, I mean, that's quite a compliment. I've heard great things about The Holdovers. I'm really excited to see it. I absolutely do think it's going to be one of my favorites of the year. I think it's something that absolutely plays to my taste. Paul Giamatti is so overdue. I've heard great things about Dominic Sessa's performance. Divine Joy Randolph, that Best Supporting Actress race just opened up a lot for her with Lily Gladstone campaigning for lead actress. So, I mean, I think everything's looking great for The Holdovers. It's actually my number 4. We agree on both. It's my number 4. I think it can win. It seems like it's it has potential to be sort of the feel-good-ish movie in a sea of maybe not feel-good-ish movies. Maybe films that are a little bit darker, aside from like Barbie. I think this is if you don't want to go with the more comedic route, you can go with the maybe more of the comedy drama instead of the satire comedy type Barbie side. So I think The Holdovers, and it's good because Focus last year picked this up. They spent like $30 million on it, so I know that they're going to push as much as they possibly can on The Holdovers. This is going to get a huge push.
This is definitely your like older style Oscar Best Picture winning movie. So yeah, I could see it winning as well if they want to go with a more feel good route. Yeah. But it'll be an interesting race for sure.
Cool. What's your number 5?
Let me one sec. Let me look at my list. I didn't memorize it. I'm not as cool as you.
I had to recite it like 27 times. It was really hard.
My number 5 is Maestro. This is sight unseen. I don't think many people have seen it, but I think Bradley Cooper. I mean, he did Star is Born. I hear Carey Mulligan is really great in it. I hear he's really great in it. Once again, I don't see a world where this doesn't get in there for the picture.
Yeah, I think this is also my number 5, and I think you're right. Part of the reason I also look at studios, I'm trying to spread out the love of the studios, and I'm like, what is Netflix? Last season, they were really thrown for a loop.
They have a lot this year.
Netflix had a lot last year, and not everything worked for them. And I think they really were. A lot of people thought Glass Onion was going to be in there for them, and then it turned out it was All Quiet on the Western Front that was their big film. But if you had said that in October, nobody thought it was.
No.
So this year, it seems really obvious that Maestro's their top pick, but Maestro seems to be landing at the film festivals. Actually, this is a really strong Oscar season. A lot of films are landing at film festivals with critics. doing a really good job at getting these critical success stories. So
Can
I
you
think
imagine
when I
if
look at
Dune
films for
and Bike
best,
Riders hadn't moved? It'd be so crowded. If Dune and Bike Riders hadn't moved their spots, it'd be like, what is happening?
yeah. Well, Bike Riders is still, isn't it still opening
Oh no, they
already?
moved it. They moved it to next year.
Oh, Bike Riders is off. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know Dune is gone.
yeah.
So yeah, uh, Maestro. I, the problem, I always try to think about like where else can I see it on the list, and obviously it's going to get a makeup nomination.
I
Bradley
hear Carey
Cooper's in the
Mulligan will
mix
probably.
for actor, Carey Mulligan for actress. I don't think Cooper can break into the top five for director. It's a tough
I don't think
race.
so.
But I'm sure there's probably a couple other things. Netflix will probably spend a pretty penny on Maestro. It's also got one of the later release dates. They seem to be kind of pushing their lessers out. Like we've already had Fair Play. We've got uh,
Pain
Pain
Hustlers.
Hustlers is coming out on Friday for Netflix subscribers. So
I
they're
saw that
trying
in
to get
Toronto
some
as
of their
well.
early ones out of the way and move things along by saving their heavy hitters for later. I think Maestro's in. That's my number five too. So
Nice. Yeah, I
yeah,
think Netflix has a couple that are like on the cusp, but I think Maestro, you're right, is their best chance at getting in there. It's funny because I feel like Netflix has been trying for this Best Picture win for so long, and they always like have one that they're like, yeah, this is it, and then it always falls short.
they came really close with Roma. Yeah. So
So my number, what are we on, 6?
six. Yeah.
My number 6 is Poor Things. Like I said, I think this is one that for sure will get in. I do hear it's weird, which I welcome the weird, but I know weird can also be very polarizing. But like you said, no Best Picture winner lately, except for Coda, has not been polarizing. So
Yeah.
I
I
loved what's the one he did between Lobster and Favorite? It's like a long title. I always forget what it's called.
the killing of a sacred deer.
Yes, that's my favorite one from him. I love that movie.
Yeah. Also completely tonally different. Like he's always trying to
Oh yeah.
throw. He's always mixing it up a little bit.
Mhm.
Just making slight changes to the tones and to the film, and I've definitely heard some changes to Poor Things from how he did his last film. So
I also love I realized Frankenstein reimaginings are like my one of my favorite genres. Like so I love Birth Rebirth. That's one of my favorite movies this year. I love Reanimator. So I'm very excited to see Poor Things and how he kind of twists that story.
well, I think too, especially with the way that the strike is working out, it's going to be harder for unknown, lesser known actors that are not allowed to campaign for films. And Poor Things, its top three, the names I keep hearing are all people that actors are familiar with. So Emma
Mhm.
Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, they don't really need to run out there and campaign because people know who they are. So they could end up getting nominations simply because people know who they are versus maybe somebody like Lily Gladstone, who it's like you hear through the grapevine who Lily Gladstone is, but maybe some people would like to meet her, but she can't do press junkets because there's a strike. So if the
Yeah.
strike doesn't end, what happens to Lily Gladstone? So there's some things to think about there. But yeah, I think Poor Things is definitely a strong contender. It's interesting because our one and twos are flipped, and our threes and sixes are flipped because my number six is Barbie.
Yeah.
Um, for me, it's outside of the win zone. I don't think it can win. I think part of the problem
You think Barbie or
is
Poor Things?
no Barbie. I don't think
Okay.
Barbie is not a winner for me.
No,
Some
it's
people
not.
believe it will win, and every time I laugh. I see those other Oscar predictors on YouTube who are like, I think Barbie's gonna win, and I'm like, I think you're insane. But it's okay. You can have your opinion on
Are you
Barbie.
on Gold Derby?
Uh, I am, but if you look at my predictions, I'm hedging my bets on a lot of 1 to 100s right now
Okay.
because if I end up being right, because I kicked myself last year because I did have All Quiet in Best Picture and I pulled it. So I'm trying to hold as many 1 to 100s as possible just in case something turns around again. It's really funny. I've got some weird stuff in certain categories. If I'm
Yeah, I
like,
need
there's
to.
even a sliver of a chance and it's a 1 to 100, I'm like, this could flip around. This will pay off.
Yeah,
So yeah, because I ended up having to put All Quiet back in, and I lost my 1 to 100 because I took it out, and I shouldn't have. Yeah. So I'm sticking with some weird choices, but
I think my
no, I
ranking
don't.
is more like what's likely to be nominated as opposed to what's likely to win. I do have a feeling it's gonna be a smaller film this year. Like, I don't think usually, like, the movies with bigger push behind them, like Oppenheimer and Barbie, like, tail off by the end. By the time we get to March, I don't think people are gonna be saying Oppenheimer's the front runner.
I don't know.
So
See, that's the funny thing is, I think because of Barbenheimer, we have this weird thing where we're going to keep talking about it. And I noticed that, at least as far as I'm aware, Barbie and Oppenheimer, neither one of them have dropped a streaming date yet. I think those two are going to drop another streaming date to create another Barbenheimer. When those drop on Max and on Peacock, they're going to drop on the same weekend, and they're
see,
going
I
to try
think
to
they're
pull that
waiting
off
to
again.
re-release those. They're gonna re-release them in January at
Well,
pretty
Barbie
much
Barbie
the same
already did the
time.
IMAX expansion, and David Zaslav promised that Barbie would release on Max this year.
Okay.
So it is a 2023. He confirmed it would be released before the end of the year.
Okay.
So, and I think Universal's holding Oppenheimer. I have a feeling that that would be a smart marketing ploy, would be to recreate Barbenheimer on the streaming service by dropping them on the same weekend. But
I wanna see Oppenheimer in theaters again, so I'm hoping they'll drop it again in January
yeah,
because
they might
it was
for
so
Oscar
crowded, and
consideration and stuff.
I was at TIFF. I didn't get to see it a second time.
But yeah, so Barbie's it for me. I The problem with Barbie that I have though is why it's in six for me is I just don't have it in a lot of other categories. I have it picking up some things. I do think Greta Gerwig has a strong shot. I think it has a strong shot in screenplay. I don't think it has acting nominations like some other people do.
I think
I
she
know
could get
people.
nominated for director.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think
Yeah,
Greta
yeah.
Gerwig can get
Oh, I thought you
nominated
meant
for
for writing.
director. I
Okay.
just don't think any. I don't. I'm not there for Margot and Ryan and America Ferrera. I know a lot
Oh,
of
you
people
don't
have
think Ryan
America
Gosling's
Ferrera.
gonna be
I don't think
nominated?
Ryan Gosling's going to get nominated.
Oh,
No, I think the
he's
category
my favorite
became.
actor. I want him to be nominated so bad.
I know. I've heard a lot of good things. The problem is that he was, he was really popping when the film
Mhm.
came out, and everybody loved his performance, and he became a top 5 contender. And then the film festivals happened, and we heard performance after performance after performance after performance that were really good. There were all of these fantastic performances, and now people want like 2 nominations for Poor Things, and the category is getting a little crowded. We got Robert Downey Jr., we got Robert De Niro. Charles Melton is still getting a lot of buzz for May December. There's a lot of people in this
That's true.
category,
I forgot about May
and I
December.
just don't know how much a comedic performance can hold up in a stronger Oscar race. I think they
Yeah.
usually shine when the category isn't so competitive. So, but anyway, I think Barbie's going to get in. I think it's the hit of the year. I think it's the Top Gun Maverick. It's the Avatar. It's the Black Panther. It's the film that
For
just
sure.
made an absurd amount of money. It's obviously going to get in. It'll probably get anywhere from 5 to 8 nominations, I would say,
Plus, they're great
because I
movies.
think it's going to get like costume design, production design, hair and makeup. It's going to get a whole bunch of those, so it'll
Yeah.
be in there.
Plus, it's
But
like a great movie too. It's fun. It means a lot to a lot of people as a message. It's fun.
yeah,
You know what my Halloween costume
it's
is, right?
is it Ken? It's got to be Ken, right?
I'm blind Ken.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I have my cane and my yeah, with the Ken shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Um. Okay. So what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Past Lives. I think this is another one that didn't hit for me personally as much, but I know everyone loves it. This is, I think, um, the Everything Everywhere. It's not that weird, not that big budget, but it's that smaller movie that came out earlier in the year that's going to carry through to the end. I think this is the one people are going to remember. I'm hoping there's another one later on my list, but this one I think especially is going to carry on through March.
Okay. Uh. I'll talk about Past Lives whenever it appears on my list. But okay, valid, some valid thoughts on Past Lives. Um, my number seven is Sight Unseen. I'm still gambling. I'm still betting on The Color Purple. I'm still on The Color Purple train. I still think it doesn't have any other competitions in terms of other musicals to open. I'm slightly concerned by the fact that sometimes we release crappy musical adaptations at Christmas time, and I'm fully aware of that. Stuff that doesn't go on to get nominations, but it's also the same time where we've had West Side Story and Les Mis, but we've also had Greatest Showman, which didn't get any nominations, and obviously Cats. So I don't think Color Purple is going to be Cats. I just, uh, it hasn't been seen, um, and I just have a sneaking suspicion that the people behind this film didn't put out a turd. I think this
It
film
has
is
a
going to be
great cast. I don't know how you put out a turd with this cast. It is crazy.
it's a stacked cast. For a while there, I was actually looking at because I was thinking about the Judd Hirsch effect, and for a while there, I actually had Louis Gossett Jr. in my top five because I was like, man, he could be the Judd Hirsch, you know, possibility. I don't know how big, I don't know how much screen time he has, but that's a classic old school actor that hasn't been around in a while that could end up just kind of coming in out of nowhere if everybody just started talking about his performance. So I think Color Purple's got a lot of nomination potential throughout the other categories. So that's why I have it. It would also give Warner Brothers its second nomination. So it's it would give they'd have Barbie in Color Purple. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's my number seven. So
So
you're
my
up.
my number 8 is American Fiction. I have not seen it. It was at TIFF. It really came out of nowhere at TIFF to win the audience award. Which, if you don't know how the audience award works, so at TIFF there's no like jury prize. It's an audience award, and then there's two runner-ups. The Holdovers was one of the runner-ups, and American Fiction actually won the audience award.
Yeah.
So I do think it usually, I would say 75% of the time, the winner of the audience award is nominated for Best Picture. So I do think American Fiction will get in there. I have not seen it. I know, I don't know many. I know some people have seen it, obviously from TIFF, but I don't know anyone personally who has seen it. But I do think it will sneak in there just based on the audience award alone.
Yeah. I think it's a strong uh, predictor for that nomination slot. It's funny how many of those things though exist, and sometimes they're just kind of odd. Like I've heard the same conversation used for the position that Kaylee Spaney's in for Priscilla, and I think it's something like half, like 5 out of 10, or something like that, of the last people who have won Best Actress at Venice went on to get an Oscar nomination. So that's why a lot of people are really pushing for her is based off of that statistic. I do have American Fiction, and I do have it at 8, but it's not entirely because of the Toronto uh, win. It has partially to do with the fact that it got picked up by MGM/Amazon. Well, however you want to look at that, it's an MGM film, but Amazon now owns MGM, so
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I don't know what else they're campaigning. So again, this is one of those things where it's like whatever money they have set aside for the Oscars, uh, I guess it's going to American Fiction. So I
I,
don't
I
know.
have
I don't.
one.
So
I have one down on my list that they're also campaigning. But yeah,
yeah,
I
okay.
mean, I agree with you. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
they
this
don't
is
have
their.
much.
I think this instantly became their top priority, especially considering Jeffrey Wright has never been nominated, and that seems like a crime for
Oh
some
yeah,
reason to say that out loud.
yeah.
So I'm happy that he's finally in a serious position to possibly be nominated for an Oscar. So anyway, that's 8. That's our top 8. What's number 9 for you?
My number 9 is also The Color Purple. I think,
Okay.
yeah, it's just so. It looks so epic. the trailer, and that cast and Oprah Winfrey behind it. It's just it has such a train going, and I think Christmas we're gonna get that and a couple of Oscar movies that will. I think doing this show, the Best Picture prediction after Christmas, is gonna drastically give us maybe some changes, but a much better idea of what's actually in the position to win.
Oh, absolutely, because there's still actually a couple of films that we haven't seen. I know it feels
Yeah.
like we've seen everything, but nobody has seen The Color Purple. Nobody has seen The Boys in the Boat. Nobody has seen Napoleon. Nobody's seen Leave the World Behind. Nobody has seen
Poor thing.
Wonka.
Well, poor thing. Some
Uh,
people have seen. Yeah.
a lot of people have seen. It's been the two
Yeah.
festivals, so a lot of people have seen Poor Things, but some of those haven't had a premiere yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those. But my number 9 is taking taking a page from the Triangle of Sadness book. I've gone with Anatomy of a Fall. Taking that statistic, Palme d'Or winner at Cannes. I'm going with Anatomy of a Fall. This is Neon, and they do have Ferrari, which maybe I don't think I just don't see Ferrari getting in. But I have heard great things about Anatomy of a Fall since it opened in at Cannes, and I know it's in theaters right now in limited release, and the
I'm
reviews
going
seem
to
to
see it
be.
in 3 hours. I will
I know
be.
you are.
I will
I
let
know
you know
you.
if it has audio description in 3 hours too. So we'll see.
I really hope it has audio description.
Yeah.
I know part of it's in English, which is part of the reason why I think France did not submit it for. There was a question as to whether or not it would qualify, because there has to be a certain percentage of the thing, and since she speaks, I think like 3 different languages in the film, whether or not it would qualify, so they submitted a different film. But um, yeah, I think Anatomy of a Fall has some category possibilities, especially Sandra Hüller for Best Actress. So I can see it getting more than one nomination. So it's my number 9.
And is this one about a blind character? I think it is, isn't
This
it?
is this is the one. This has a blind character in it, so this is like
Yeah.
representation. Yeah.
So this is one I desperately wanted to see at TIFF, but of course it didn't have audio description. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to watch this movie,
I'm scared.
especially
It's Neon.
only partially in English without AD. So it better have AD, dude. Being about a blind person, especially, like, come on. We'll see,
Neon
we'll
put
see. But
Triangle of Sadness out without audio description, and that was, brutal.
I did
But
see that in theaters with audio description.
you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly.
Yeah.
What's
So,
okay?
did you ever see it though?
I
Triangle of
saw
Sadness?
it, but what did it go to? Hulu? It went
I
to
don't even
Hulu.
remember.
I think,
That
and
was
of
one I
course,
didn't
Hulu
need to
didn't have audio
rewatch.
description for it. So yeah,
Okay.
I saw it on Hulu without audio description.
So my number 10, this is one I really want. This is a pick for me. I really want Air to come through full year. It came out last March, come through to March 2024. I really love this movie. I think the Academy likes Ben Affleck. I think if Amazon can give it one more push, towards the end of the year, be like, hey, remember this movie that you all loved at the beginning? I really, really want. I don't know how likely it is, but I want Air to be up for this picture.
I am so mad at Amazon for putting Air where they put it. It is so ridiculous that Air opened in April. It's like it's killing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's so hard because they released it. It did like all right at the box office, and yes, it's available on Prime, and people can watch Air, and they've been able to watch Air all year. But it's hard to keep a hype up that for that long, especially when people are trying to keep hype up for all these other movies. I mean, I feel the same way about a different film. I would say it's not in my top 10, but I really loved Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I thought that was fantastic.
I still haven't seen
And
that. I need to see
and
it.
it doesn't stand a chance in hell of being nominated in this Oscar race. With a late April release, it made very little money at the box office. But what else is Lionsgate doing? What do they have? why didn't Lionsgate hold that film? So it's just really odd choices. But my number 10, and this may be crazy. I may be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs here, and I've struggled a lot with this one. Uh, I've had angry conversations with myself. But for right now, my number 10 is The Zone of Interest.
Okay.
I think it's a device. I've heard everything about how it's a divisive film. There are a lot of people that respect it. It's A24. They obviously campaign films, and they campaign multiple films at the same time. And this is why I don't have Past Lives, because I think Zone of Interest is opening at a time when A24 is able to campaign it, and it's going to hit at the right time. And I think A24 is going to end up canceling out their other smaller film in favor of Jonathan Glazer's powerful. We're sitting here, and there's stuff happening in Israel, and we're very focused and hyper focused on anti-Semitism. And I think that this happens to be the right time for Zone of Interest. I know it's sort of experimental; it doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but I think Jonathan Glazer has a shot at director. I think this has a shot possibly in categories like cinematography or editing. So it could be a multiple nominee, and I think A24 may end up surprising people with the film they actually get into Best Picture this year. I know a lot of people want Past Lives, but I picked Zone of Interest to be A24's top film.
Here's my thing about Zone of Interest. I have not seen it. I don't know. I read the plot synopsis. That's all I really know. From the plot synopsis, I don't know that it takes a perspective that is welcome right now. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get too political, but politically, a movie about a Nazi family, I don't think will hit very well right now. If we're trying to sympathize with that perspective, it's it's interesting, but the timing of it is like oof. So unless maybe it's a different perspective on the movie, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but that's why I didn't put it on my list because of what's going on. Because
Yeah.
it's about a Nazi family, I'm like, I don't know how people are going to react to it.
Well, I do believe it has. It doesn't have that. I don't think it has a sympathetic Nazi perspective to it. I think the point was to show contrasting atrocities. I do believe Jonathan Glazer is Jewish and
Okay.
has directed this from the appropriate viewpoint. Everything that I've heard, also not having seen it, but everything I've heard for the most point has told me that this film hits you exactly the way it's supposed to hit you. Much like something like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas would be.
I was gonna say,
I think this is if The Boy in the Striped Pajamas had been released and actually taken seriously as an Oscar contender. And I think it's going to be something a little like that, where, but actually harder.
See, that's the thing. Like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, I like that movie. I do see people. There are some people's perspective who think, oh, it's like a tragedy. Obviously, you're following this boy of a Nazi family, and he, spoiler alert, something happens to him at the end, and then you feel bad for the family, but they're Nazis. I like the movie. I like Boy in the Striped Pajamas, but like we're feeling bad for Nazis in that movie, and so it's kind of like, wait.
I don't know. I didn't feel bad for the family. I just felt bad for the kid, because the kid didn't know
Yeah,
what was going on, and
but
the kid didn't understand anything. That was my
yeah.
perspective. But anyway, that's
But I do. If it's a good perspective, I could see it getting in there. Yeah, and I did not know that Jonathan Glazer's Jewish. So yeah, I'm very interested in seeing it.
I do believe
But
he
I'm
is. At
also
least
it's
I heard
so
I heard it mentioned in at least one review. So
okay.
if that person knows what they're talking about,
Yeah.
otherwise I'm just spreading a fake rumor. It's like that
Yeah.
person's the guy.
I am very
One of two
interested in
things.
seeing it, and it was also a tip, but it didn't have audio description, so you know
Yeah,
there was that.
but A24 has been really good about audio description.
They are.
So I'm less worried about this having audio description than I am Neon, which is sometimes we have audio description, sometimes we don't.
I also
Eh,
it's funny. I will take this opportunity though I realize A24 does not put audio description on their physical media releases, and it's such a bummer because I bought X.
Yeah,
I want
I
to
heard
buy
that.
everything everywhere, and they don't have AD on the disc, and I'm like, come on, guys, you're so good at this. Like, why?
But
It's fresh.
it's so tough because in a world where physical media is slipping away, to make that fight,
Yeah,
it's like they're going to be like, listen, you should be happy that there is physical media left.
I know.
With Best Buy stopping at the end of the year,
Yeah,
um, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where we're going to get physical media from, except Amazon, and probably at some point, and it'll be Shout Factory releases things
yeah.
in
Well, there's
Criterion
Groove.
Collection.
Have you heard of Groove?
No, no, I haven't.
There's GRUV, and it's
Okay.
Universal and Warner Brothers and Lionsgate titles mostly. So it's straight from their warehouse. So like, there's
Oh, okay.
no third party. They have sales every weekend. It's pretty cool, and it's like free shipping. It's a great site. Yeah.
Cool. I'll look into it. All right. Now we're into honorable mentions. We only had one difference. I have Zone of Interest in and Past Lives out, and you have Past Lives in and Zone of Interest out. So
Okay.
otherwise, we have 9 films that lined up. I do believe
So
so.
my first honorable mention is Napoleon. I think I really liked The Last Duel. I know a lot of people were iffy on it. I also liked House of Gucci more than most people. I think Last Duel was better, but Ridley Scott I think has slowly been kind of returning to form. So I'm really looking forward to Napoleon. I hope it's as good as people hope it is, but I know Ridley Scott can either hit or really miss. So we will see. But I do really love Vanessa Kirby. I love Joaquin Phoenix, but I want Vanessa Kirby deserves so much more attention than she's been getting. Like I love Pieces of a Woman. That was one of my favorite movies of the year when it came out. I don't think that got enough attention. So I really hope Napoleon is as good as I'm hoping it is.
Yeah, the Shia LaBeouf factor worked against that film for sure.
I did, yeah.
I definitely I'm paying attention to Napoleon. I did love The Last Duel, and I was so taken aback by how little response it had that year. That was one of my favorite films of that year, and especially
Hmm.
Jodie Comer's performance was extraordinary. My number 11 is just basically was my number 10. I mean, I just flipped the films. It's Past Lives. I just think Zone of Interest has a slight edge over Past Lives. Past Lives, I keep seeing it falling down the charts. I keep seeing these races, and I keep seeing. I think Celine's Song has been shoved out of the director's race. I think Greta Gerwig is definitely taking up a lot of air as being at least the top female director nomination. And now there are several other female directors that are coming on up. There's talk about nominating Ava DuVernay for Origin, Justin Triet for uh, Anatomy of a Fall.
Where is Origin going to be streaming? Do you know, or is it going to be in theaters?
I don't know who picked up Origin.
I
I'm
just
not.
started hearing about this like last week. So
I'm not. I can't remember who picked up Origin. But I've heard interesting things about it. I don't know. It's a very odd film, but it seems like a directorial achievement for her. It's something that I feel like she could be the film's only nomination in a
hmm
weird way. I feel like she could just kind of sweep in out of nowhere, and they could recognize Ava DuVernay just for being able to adapt a nonfiction work into a work of fiction in the way that she does, and sort of still keep it um, feeling the way that it does. She kind of just like adapted a concept, it seems like, almost, which
hmm
is like a theme into a film. So um she's been bubbling sort of like Greta Gerwig, almost in like the it's their time category. So I just Celine Song, it's a debut for her. And I don't even know if she's going to win first time director at DGA because of American Fiction, which is also a
hmm
debut feature. So I have no idea what's happening anymore. But I think Greta Lee's getting pushed out. I think John McGarr is getting pushed out, and Teo Yu wasn't. I mean, he's way down the list on Best Actor category. So I don't see where it gets. People are like, well, it's going to get picture and screenplay, like women talking, and that'll be enough. Will it? Is
We'll
that
see.
we'll see. So,
Yeah.
what's your number 12?
I think I gotta go with Zone of Interest on this. It's just got so much buzz around it, you know. We'll see what happens. But and I am very, very curious to see it for myself. But I think especially I think the politics of the day could hurt it or help it. But the fact is that it's in the conversation, the politics. So I think it's going to be on people's minds regardless.
Okay, yeah. Um, my number 12 is a film we haven't talked about yet. It's All of Us Strangers, the film with the absurdly high Metacritic score. Uh,
What is?
that's
I don't even think I've heard of this movie. What is this?
it's from the director of. He's done a couple films. I did see his film Weekend. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but I did get an opportunity to see Weekend. I thought it was an interesting independent film, um, LGBT themed, and I understand the same theme is run through this film as well. But this is a film where we have Andrew Scott, best known as being the priest from Fleabag, is playing a man who, through a series of events, is able to see his parents as they were back in time. He's able to just sort of like interact with them, even though they're not there. They're not really there. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a
Yeah,
ghost
yeah.
story.
Okay.
But its reviews are insanely high. I think that best actor race is really tough, but it does have the benefit of having some actors in there that could. Paul Mescal in for supporting actor, Claire Foy for supporting actress. This is a film that I kind of want to see what happens
Yeah.
because I feel like everybody who's seen this has been generally really positive. The critics are really high on it. I don't think anybody knows what to do with it. This is a film that could. I feel like when Paul Mescal was. We didn't know anything about him until like December. I don't think anybody was talking about him last year. So
Yep.
this could be that. Maybe a couple people were talking and conversation just grew. So I'm waiting to see what happens with this film. But everything I hear about it is incredibly positive. So
What is it called again?
All of Us Strangers.
I'll have to
It
look
was
that up.
originally called The Strangers, and they retitled it to All of Us Strangers.
So my next one is Naiad. I think this one was also a TIFF, and it got a late ad with audio description, and I did not get a chance to go because my schedule was already full. But I do really want to see it. It's another Netflix one with Annette Bening um, and Jodie Foster. I hear really, really good things about it. I hear Annette Bening's performance is out of this world. So we will see if it can carry through for a Best Picture nomination. But yeah, I think, I mean, we aren't going to know obviously till we see it. So
Yeah. You basically are representing sort of the same, a very similar thought that I had, which is what is Netflix's number two film? I I think Naiad is very much in the race because Annette Bening has 4 nominations, and I can't ignore her no matter what.
mhm.
I refuse to. I think she's in this race, but this film has some really polarizing
Yeah,
reactions to it. I mean, deeply polarizing. Not just like it wasn't for me, but like you know, I punched somebody in the face on the way out. Just like it's like people are
it's
like
funny because
viscerally angry at Naiad.
I
Um,
mentioned it to my mom when I was at Toronto. I was like, "Oh, this movie Naiad got AD," and her instant reaction was like, "Ooh, like I haven't heard great things." I'm like, "Really?" Like, but then I hear it's very polarizing. You're right. It's really strange.
yeah, but then and I should say because I do listen to a lot of different people. Two of the three people that do that for your consideration Oscar
Hmm.
ended up putting it in their top 10 race. And
Hmm.
I mean, their people have been doing this forever. So
Yeah.
I, it's all over the place. Nayad is all over the place. For me, I just felt safer thinking that Netflix's second film was Todd Haynes's May December.
I was gonna
I
say
think
it's
they
either
picked this
Naiad or
up.
that.
Yeah, I think they picked this up for a reason. You know, they
Uh-huh.
knew that they had a solid film slate, and they saw this at the festival, and they were like, "Huh, we can make our slate stronger with this." So they picked up May December. They already had a strong slate this year. They could have even held this for next year if they wanted to, but
Mhm.
they pushed this out. It's got a strong cast. Charles Melton is getting known just for being able to hold his own against, powerful Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore. He's getting a lot of attention. So he could end up becoming like the next Barry Keoghan, just to come out of the race out of nowhere, almost like, where did this actor come from? Well, this film. So I
Is
see
May
some other
December your next one?
nomination. What?
Is May December your next one?
Yeah, it is. It's my 13. We both have
Okay.
a Netflix film. That was my thing. Is that
Nice.
you have this is your second Netflix film on the list, and this is my second Netflix film on the list, and they're both at number 13.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to figure out what is their number two. Like, what else are they pushing? I just have May December, so um, I'm not counting it out. So, what's
That's awesome.
what
Yeah,
do you
there's so
have?
many. I
What?
think I'm leaning towards Ferrari for 14. I
Okay.
just think it looks like Neon doesn't usually do big budget, but it looks like a big budget Neon movie. Like it looks stylish, it looks sleek. Adam Driver has always been really good. The Academy seems to like him too. So I feel like this could, if the movie's good, it could sneak in there. I actually went to a party at TIFF, and one of the guys I was talking to was like, "Yeah, I'm the assistant for the EP for Ferrari, and I just came from Venice straight to Toronto." I was like, "That's cool."
Yeah. Um, yeah, they bought Ferrari. And I thought that was really interesting because I don't, when I think of Neon and the choices that they make, I don't think Michael Mann. You
Hmm.
know, I don't think that that's not where my head was going when I saw this title was on the list as potential for this year. Um, I think Penelope Cruz has seems to have a really good shot. She obviously is an Oscar favorite. She's been nominated a couple times. She's even snuck into the race when she wasn't even really supposed to be. She wasn't like a top five choice. So I think Penelope Cruz could very well, even if the film doesn't perform well, be the film's only nomination in supporting actress.
Hmm.
So I think the film will be watched and it'll be talked about in award season. I have not heard great things about Adam Driver, but I've heard the rest of it seems fine. Like the rest of the package here seems fine, but the Adam Driver just didn't blow anybody away for Ferrari. So having a leading actor in that position seems to be maybe the only thing holding Ferrari back. That and it's definitely not Neon's top film. So they didn't pick up the Palme d'Or winner for nothing. So uh, my 14th is a film you've already talked about, which is Napoleon. Um, I just the Oscars seem to be sending an anti Ridley Scott message, and I want to say that Napoleon has a shot, and I'm keeping an open mind because I can see obviously if Napoleon is like Gladiator, it has tons of possibilities in acting, but also all throughout the tech categories. If Napoleon is mind blowing, and Apple has two films this year that are epic, uh, sure, but
Hmm.
I'm a little concerned that Apple hasn't shown Napoleon to anybody. It's kind of got me a little worried. It's supposed to open in just a couple of weeks here in November. So I don't know what to do with Napoleon, but I'm intrigued. So I kept it on my list because I think it has so many nomination. It has the potential to be nominated all over the place if it's good. If it's not, it'll just be the last duel, and uh, that'll be sad.
I have
So
an off-topic question for you.
yeah,
Do you think had the Will Smith slap not happened, Emancipation would have gotten more love last year?
no.
No.
No, Antoine Fuqua is not. He's not somebody who consistently gets nominated, and I just tonally I didn't find Emancipation to even really be Oscar in the race. It was a tough category for Will Smith, and um, I don't know what they would have. I don't know what they would have gotten in. You know,
I thought they should have gotten cinematography. I thought it was beautiful.
Smith Smith is a tough category for Smith. I really love Ben Foster, and I think he's overdue for an Oscar nomination. And if I was an Oscar voter, I probably would have just voted for Ben Foster just because. Just to
Yeah.
vote for Ben Foster at this point. Because he consistently never gets nominated, but like people from the films he's in get nominated. But he's great, you know. Opposite.
Did he get nominated for Hell or High Water?
No, no,
Oh, he's
nope.
so good in that.
I
He's
know.
so good.
No, Ben Foster's never been nominated, so it's about damn time to nominate that kid and stop nominating his co-stars and the films that he's
Yeah.
in without nominating him. So yeah, I would have nominated him for Emancipation probably, but yeah, it's tough. Will Smith had just won King Richard, 2 back-to-back nominations. I don't know that he would have gotten it, even without the slap. So, it's a good question though.
Yeah, like I said, cinematography I would have liked to see for that one, but I don't think they were going to be nominating a Will Smith vehicle for anything last year. So,
Yeah.
So for my 15, I didn't realize how many possibilities there were. Like there's May December, there's Priscilla. I think I'm gonna go
Sure.
with Anatomy of a Fall though, because everyone's talking about it. I'm gonna see it later today, so we'll see what I think then. But even if it has AD, I don't know. But like, because honestly, I'm gonna leave if it doesn't have AD. There's no point. But yeah, I think I have to go with Anatomy of a Fall for my last spot.
Okay. My last spot is a little bit of a swing, but it's still along the lines of Napoleon. Yeah, some of the films you talked about, I just looking at the nomination potential for them. When I think about something like Priscilla, I think about how little attention Sofia Coppola has gotten since Lost in Translation, and a lot of people say, "Oh, well, but this is closer to Lost in Translation than she's been since Lost in Translation," and I'm like, I don't know, but we just had Elvis. And again, it's one of those things like, do we love Sofia Coppola that much? Because it doesn't seem to ever have trained. And Kaylee Spaney is unknown. I feel like Kaylee Spaney needs the strike to end. You know, I don't think she can get a nomination while there's a SAG strike. So that concerns me. Same thing with like Greta Lee. I don't think she's well enough to known to be getting a nomination. Uh, so there's some of those films down there. Origin.
Yep.
You know, I love Aunjanue Ellis, and she popped her cherry though with King Richard. She got that nomination, so there's not the same push to make sure she gets her nomination.
There's
It's not the
Rustin.
same thing. There's Rustin, which has gotten a ton of love, but most of it is for Coleman Domingo. So it seems to be actor centric. So the one film that I went with is A Total Gamble, and it's a sight unseen. But a couple of years ago, we had a very late entry into the Oscar race, with The Tender Bar, where all of a sudden everybody was like, "Oh my God, might Ben Affleck get a
That's
nomination
right.
finally?"
Forgot about that movie.
And that was directed by George Clooney, who is currently directing The Boys in the Boat this year, which is opening almost the
I don't
same
even think
exact
I've heard of
release
this
pattern
movie.
as The Tender Bar. It's following almost the same exact release pattern. It's also an Amazon film, dropping at the end of the year. And
Who's in that?
I'm curious. Not a lot of well-known people, but because it's a war film, I think it could pick up tech nominations. I think if Clooney ends up getting in, it could end up getting him maybe like sound, you know, cinematography, editing, stuff like that. It could end up getting a little bit of notice. I think it'll be a very late entry. It's hard for it to break in, but if it's really good, Amazon will know probably by the time Boys in the Boat comes around whether or not they think air is going to happen and how much of their campaign money to switch to Boys in the Boat, because they will have had probably Golden Globe nominations by that point, SAG nominations around that point. So yeah, I think they'll know.
Yeah.
It's really sad that they have The Burial and that they did nothing with it, because Jamie Foxx is fantastic in The Burial.
Oh, that's the one with what's his name too? That was also a TIFF,
Tommy Lee
and I
Jones.
haven't
Yeah,
seen
it
it.
was at TIFF.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it. It's on Prime, and
Is it good?
I thought the movie was pretty good. I wouldn't nominate for Best Picture, but Jamie Foxx should absolutely be in this race. Like we
Okay.
should be talking about Jamie Foxx, especially following. Um, I mean, he almost died, and he was also in They Clone Tyrone this year, which he was also fantastic in. So it's been a good year for Jamie Foxx, and I think people have just forgotten that he's like on the rise from almost dying, and that he knocked out two great performances. And I just don't know. I don't know why we're forgetting Jamie Foxx this year, but we are. It's
It's not gonna
that actor
happen.
category is too damn crowded, is why.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not gonna happen, but I really want Glenn Howerton for Best Actor, but I don't think that's gonna happen. It's
Oh, I
too
think they're
crowded.
submitting him for supporting, and Jay Baruchel is considered lead actor.
Okay, that's true. Okay.
I do believe he's supporting actor. At least that's where Gold Derby has him. So Glenn Howerton would be great, but IFC Films is not a studio that is known for getting Oscar nominations. Again, we
Yeah.
sort of have the problem there. It's like last year with Decision to Leave, when people were like, "Oh, Decision to Leave is going to be the film that's going to sneak into the." I was like, I don't know what movie is, but I don't think they have people campaigning for Oscars. It's why when everybody begrudged Andrea Riseborough for submitting herself to Leslie, it's like, I mean, if you have a studio that won't do it and has no money to fund an Oscar campaign for you, but you're able to do it yourself, why not? You know, are we not looking for the best work of the year? It shouldn't
Hmm.
matter. Like it shouldn't be a wealth thing. It shouldn't be like my fancy studio was able to buy my way into the Oscar race. Meanwhile, my film got picked up by XYZ Studios,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
they just launched 2 months ago, and I'm their first film. It doesn't matter that people say this is a career achievement for me.
It's funny. I
Nobody's
was like,
watching
wait, are
my
you talking
film.
about XYZ Studios, like the real one, or I was like,
No,
oh,
I
he's
just
making an
picked like
example. Yeah.
I just picked. I was as I said it, I was like, you know what? Somebody probably did that. There probably is an XYZ Studios.
There
Um,
is. Yes, there
yeah,
is.
I was like, that has to be a studio title. I should have picked something more random. But
Do you
no,
get
they're
the
yeah.
sorry? Do you get the
No, go
same
ahead.
feel from Priscilla as you do? Like, I get the same feel from that movie as I did from what was that Kristen Stewart movie that came out a few years ago about the royal
Oh,
family?
Spencer.
Yeah, I don't know why. I get the same kind of feel. It's in the same release window. And remember, everyone was talking about Kristen Stewart, and then she fell off. And I feel like that might happen to Priscilla.
But Kristen Stewart got the nomination
Did
for
she?
yeah, she got
Okay.
nominated for Spencer.
I
So
just I don't think she was ever like she was talked about as being the front runner at first, and then by the time the Oscars happened, it was like there's no chance she's gonna win this award. You know?
yeah, I mean, she she got her praise. The film was polarizing. Not everybody loved it. And then what ended up happening with that film is that I think the other nominations got stripped away to where it just became a Kristen Stewart possibility.
Yeah.
It looked more and more narrow. Like, what are we campaigning for? Oh, it's just Kristen Stewart. And I think that's what happened. But Pablo Lorraine also got Natalie Portman in for Jackie. So he can get his female leads in. Sadly, his film this year, I don't think is going to get anybody in. El Conde with
Mm.
Vampire Pinochet. It's not happening this year for Pablo. But um,
Yeah, I don't know why. The same tone for some reason in the trailer. I got the same tone as Spencer and Priscilla. The feel.
uh, sure, but I would say Kristen Stewart had been around for a while and had never been nominated.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think sometimes you have to take that into consideration when thinking about the actor races. Is who are they excited about? Uh, who's exciting in Hollywood right now? Because I think if people are trying to sift through the remains of last year and figure out why Ana de Armas ended up getting a nomination, I think it has a lot to do with not just the fact that she was actually great in that movie, even if you hate Blonde, she's good
Yep.
in it. It's
Yep.
also because people have been trying to peg Ana de Armas as being one of the next big things. So it was an opportunity to acknowledge her for uh, for some great work in a film that a lot of people thought had fallen off the radar. Same thing, Andrea Riseborough was her first nomination. It was an opportunity to give a nod to somebody who hadn't been nominated before. And obviously, uh, you know, we still have not diversified the branch enough to have enough people that watched Till. So,
That's
you
a
know,
great movie. Um, so out of our 10 right now, oh my god, right now, which one do you think has the most likely to win? I know you haven't seen Flowers and some other ones, but if you
oh,
were to
right
try
now
and
I'm
say,
Killers is the one that I think has is my most likely to win, but it's slightly edging.
mhm,
I sort of have my one and two are really close, and the only reason that I'm using the only judgment that I have putting Killers over Oppenheimer is that the Oscars really have not done Nolan justice. Uh, and it's tough to say that they did Scorsese justice, but I think Scorsese throughout his career that his films get more nominations, and he had a ton of nominations before he won.
mhm,
So Nolan has one nomination for Dunkirk, and that's insane. So uh, I don't know how else to say that
yeah,
except
yeah,
it's weird. It's weird, and people are projecting Oppenheimer to get like 12 nominations, and I've seen two supporting actor nominations plus Emily Blunt. So like this film's gonna get like four acting nominations. He's only gotten one actor to a nomination in his entire directing career. I mean, we're expecting the Oscars to just go complete 180 on this film. And I just don't know. I do not have enough faith in the Oscars. Every time I put faith in the Oscars, they prove me wrong. So I'm going with Killers. I like Oppenheimer, and I would love for Christopher Nolan to have a Best Picture winner and a Best Director trophy. But because I want that, it means it's not happening. Because
yeah,
traditionally, if I want something to happen, it's not going to happen.
yeah,
So they will go in the absolute opposite direction of whatever, and they will find a random nominee out of nowhere. They'll pull somebody who nobody was talking about just to prove a point, you know. And then
yeah.
suddenly, out of nowhere, I don't know. The creator gets a nomination for
Oh my
best
god.
picture, and everybody's like, what just happened? you know,
Some people
I
love
don't
that
know
movie.
Oppenheimer, but we just got the creator. So, yeah,
And then Annette
I have
Bening
no
gets
idea.
nominated for that instead of Nyad.
Yeah, so, um, but yeah, I don't trust them. So those films are really close for me. And then right below that, I do acknowledge the fact that I do think there is a road to victory for both Poor Things and The Holdovers. I just
Yeah,
want to see them. I just want to see them hit a little bit more, see how audiences respond. Because I'm kind of seeing how Killer's audiences are responding right now, which is not bad for a film that is coming from a streaming service. This is Apple having to team up with Paramount to get as wide of a release as they're getting in theaters, because this is a film when you see Apple, you know it's coming to a streaming service
yeah.
pretty soon.
Plus, it's three and a
You
half
won't have to wait
hours.
very
So,
long. So, and it's 3.5 hours,
yeah.
and it's a drama,
It's
and
during
yes, and
Taylor
a lot of
Swift.
things.
Yeah.
So, it's maybe a little underwhelming for film starring DiCaprio, but it's also October. I don't know. It's fine. I think it's doing fine for where they put it. Um, so
I
I
think the
feel good about
SAG
it.
the SAG strike is gonna have a major impact. Like, I think if they can make a deal and get off, I think like Margot Robbie, they're the bigger budget movies will have more of a chance. But I think if they stay on, it's gonna really change what the campaign strategies, obviously, but it will have a big impact on what gets nominated and what doesn't.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing where I think some of these foreign language features that we have, Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest, I don't believe Sandra Hüller is a member of SAG because she's not. That's is she? Why would she be?
I
She's
don't think
not.
so.
She doesn't do American. She doesn't do English language features in America, so
Mhm.
she could easily campaign and wouldn't be considered scabbing. So she can do all these interviews over in Europe with everybody and she can campaign the hell out of her performance in Anatomy of a Fall and also her performance in Zone of Interest. And meanwhile, no one else is allowed to campaign, and Sandra Hüller's out there giving every interview.
Mhm.
I think she was on the cover of Hollywood Reporter, because she's
Yep.
allowed to campaign for her films because she's not from America. She's not an English language actress. She's not from here. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and that's why some of these new people that are coming along, I think Charles Milton has a great shot if the strike ends. I think Lily Gladstone has a great shot if the strike ends. If the
Mhm.
strike is still going on and we're coming up on the nomination period, uh, I'm not
Then
going to
it's all
have
name
them.
recognition.
Yeah, I'm going to say they probably don't get in. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, it's been great having you, and we'll come back. We're going to next week. I think Lee's rotating in, but I don't want to say that absolutely for sure, just in case he does it. But we'll be back next week, and I will have a guest host.
Yeah. No,
There'll be
this was really fun. And
somebody
yeah, I
from the
look
dark
forward
room will
to.
be here.
Yes. So can I plug?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So our latest episode of The Dark Room, I talked about the movies I saw at TIFF. And then this week we will be releasing an episode talking about the accessibility at TIFF and the logistics of that being blind at a film festival. And then I think we also have a Halloween episode that will be coming up. So yeah, subscribe to The Dark
Cool.
Room. It's everywhere you get your podcast. And you can follow us on Instagram at Darkroom Filmcast.
Awesome. All right. That's
Thank
it.
you so much for having me, John. This was fun.
It's been great having you, Alex, and I think we had a great start to the Best Picture race. It'll be interesting to see if these are the 10 when we come down to it a little bit closer to the race. But we'll be back next week. I don't know with what category yet, but the category next week on Talking Oscars. Until then, thank you all for watching, and click subscribe so you can stay informed and be notified again when we go live. So see you later.
See you guys.